Thank you for viewing our presentation. My name is Victoria, and with me I have Carson, CJ, and Stephen. Carson will start things off by discussing the background of the project.
The Little River is a small waterway that separates lower Pasquotank and Perkins counties in northeastern North Carolina and flows into the Albemarle Sound. In recent decades, the expansion of agricultural and residential development in the Little River watershed has severely undermined its water quality. Non-point source pollution, pollution that can't be traced to a single source, but instead is largely from widespread runoff, has been the primary culprit. Fertilizer runoff from farms directly adjacent to canals has added inorganic nitrogen, feeding algae and increasing chlorophyll A levels, which has choked aquatic wildlife. The runoff from development has added an excess silt particles into the waterway. All of this has been made worse by years of logging along the riverbanks and tributary canals, which has severely limited the capacity of natural buffers to catch pollutants before they enter the river. Citing these high levels of pollutants in the Little River, the Environmental Protection Agency has classified the Little River as an impaired waterway under its 303D list. In response to the Little River having been classified as impaired by the EPA, Pasquotank County, along with a coalition of local and regional organizations, including the Albemarle Resource Conservation and Development Council, have come up with a 9-point plan to restore the watershed and significantly improve water quality in the river. The plan proposes best practice measures, including the construction and maintenance of wetlands along drainage canals in the Little River to reduce the amount of pollutants entering the river, as well as the preservation of natural riparian buffers through a tax credit to disincentivize logging. Our role as policy capstone students was to analyze the implications of that 9-step plan to determine if Pasquotank County and the RC&D Council should pursue it to take the Little River off the EPA's 303D list. We monetized the benefits of restoring the river, as well as the costs of implementing those strategies, to come up with a cost-benefit analysis of implementing the plan. In analyzing the potential benefits of restoring the river, we looked at several case studies and employed what's called a benefit transfer method to transfer findings from those studies to the Little River watershed, adjusting for factors that might make the case studies somehow different from the setting in Pasquotank County. We first sought to estimate how restoring the Little River might impact home prices in the region. To do that, we examined a 2007 study of the impacts of water quality along the St. Mary's River in coastal Maryland on nearby home values. The St. Mary's River is of comparable size to the Little River, and the region has a similar history of maritime and agricultural usage. The researchers looked at how variations in total suspended solids and dissolved inorganic nitrogen, two pollutants also found in the Little River due to runoff, impacted home prices at different points along the river. They found that a 1 milligram per liter decrease in dissolved inorganic nitrogen increases home values by an average of 8.8%, or around $17,600, and a 1 milligram per liter decrease in total suspended solids increases home values by an average of about 0.5%, or around $1,000. In Model 2, we adjusted those values for differences in median home prices between the St. Mary's watershed and Pasquotank County, using the two models as a range in our estimate.
We looked at a survey conducted in 1992 that asked residents of the Tar-Pamlico River Basin how much they would be willing to pay to improve water quality in the Tar-Pamlico River. The Tar-Pamlico River is just south of the Little River and was experiencing the same problems with non-point source pollution. The interventions the study proposed using to improve water quality in the Tar-Pamlico are the exact same interventions currently being used by the RC&D Council in the Little River. The study found that, on average, the survey participants were willing to pay $25 for the restoration program, which is $45 in 2015 after adjusted for inflation. The authors of the survey suggest that a referendum on the restoration would pass the majority voting rule if the household cost of the program remained under $10, or what would be $18 in 2015.
In addition to the Tar-Pamlico, we utilized another study from 2006 that estimates willingness to pay in the Neuse River Basin. The Neuse River and the Little River have very similar characteristics, both being harmed by non-point source pollution and the continual loss of forests surrounding the rivers. The researchers utilized telephone surveys in order to ask residents how much they would be willing to pay for water quality that is fishable, swimmable, and drinkable. The survey found that, on average, residents in the 12 counties of the Neuse River Basin were willing to pay $76 for new programs to improve water quality, which would be $110 adjusted for inflation in 2015.
We looked at how restoration of the Little River would impact tourism revenues. We calculated that a fishing tournament would bring in between $325 and $667 of revenue per each additional tourist. We calculated that daily recreational fishing could be expected to bring in between $22 and $26 per day per each additional tourist, and that kayak tours could bring in between $66 and $78 per day per each additional tourist. These numbers were calculated using the Travel Economic Impact Model, which looks at lodging, food, and recreation to make an estimation of how each additional tourist will impact the economy of the county as a whole.
After quantifying the various non-market aspects of the benefits provided by the Little River, we conducted a cost-benefit analysis to evaluate the economic feasibility and net value of restoring the river. Through consultations with Albemarle RC&D, we were able to identify two specific strategies for restoring the river to highlight in the cost-benefit analysis: in-stream wetland construction and riparian buffer protection through tax credits. In-stream wetlands have already been approved for construction at two sites on the upper section of the Little River. However, Rodney Johnson of Albemarle RC&D made it clear that more will be needed to have a real impact on restoring the river. These in-stream wetlands are simply man-made wetlands consisting of natural vegetation that act as a buffer between the non-point source pollution and the river itself. More research will need to be conducted to determine the amount of additional sites needed on the Little River, but the model used in the cost-benefit analysis allows for one to easily change the number of necessary sites. And even if the costs were to double, it would still be a net positive gain to move forward with the project. The costs of in-stream wetland construction are very straightforward and were pulled from Albemarle RC&D grants for previous projects. The actual construction of the wetlands, including material and labor, make up the bulk of the cost, but project development, data collection for grant purposes, and property easements all make up significant costs as well. In the past, these costs have been covered by grants from outside sources, so we've included a list of possible grants in the presentation. The benefits are much more subjective and harder to quantify, so we chose to focus only upon the most realistic and economically valuable benefits. Housing values, as one would expect, make up most of the benefits, with property values significantly increasing around the river. However, value to locals was also very significant, as people would likely be willing to pay to have a restored river. Then there is ecotourism derived from boating, swimming, kayak tours, bird watching, etc. along the river. And then fishing, both recreational and professional, which can bring in large influxes of people and money to the area at certain times of the year. In the end, this led us to a conservative estimate of $4,646,993 in benefits and $865,000 in costs. The assumptions used in the model are included in the instructions to the model, as well as directions on how to simply change the inputs in the model as new data is collected to get a more accurate conclusion. The second strategy we highlighted was the use of a tax credit in Pasquotank County to preserve the riparian buffers that are disappearing as people sell the trees along the Little River to local logging companies. Pasquotank currently has a $300 per acre tax credit, but utilization rates are very low at this point in time. It is likely that the tax credit will have to increase significantly to reflect the non-market benefits of the river in order to convince more residents to utilize the tax credit. The costs are very straightforward in this case, but they are very hard to predict. It will be important to keep data on tax credit utilization moving forward in order to gain a better idea of what the cost of the tax credit will be. However, we conducted the analysis at the current tax credit of $300 per acre. Additionally, there will be administrative costs associated with keeping up with and applying this tax credit. Operating under the assumption that each strategy gets one to the same average level of restoration on the Little River, the benefits for this strategy are the same as the benefits from the in-stream wetlands. As you can see in the graph, the cost increased significantly to $3,015,000 when using the tax credit. but is subject to change depending on utilization of the tax credit. However, this project still creates a net positive value for the community.
In our final portfolio, we include a section on grants that lists these grants along with more information about them. The benefits of a restored Little River watershed are over $4 million. These benefits can be achieved through a mixed strategy of several approaches: preserving natural riparian buffers through a tax credit with a total net benefit of over $1 million, or constructing in-stream wetlands with a total net benefit of over $3.5 million. Taking into consideration the results of the cost-benefit analysis, we recommend that Pasquotank County pursue river restoration in order to improve water quality. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to contact Dr. Dacia Merritt. Thank you.